Well, here we go with the DJI Mini 3 Pro new firmware flight number 2. As soon as I get out of this fog, we'll find ourselves on our landing mat, hopefully, or takeoff mat, depending on which way you're looking at it. Anyway, here we go. See if we can get Thelma Lou up in the air. There she goes. This is the second new firmware flight of the day for the DJI Mini 3 Pro. Headed the other direction now. The first firmware flight, headed south. First firmware flight that I did right before this one, which is what you should see before this one, did real well. She ran out of signal about where she always does, so it didn't change too much on the signal strength, although on this flight and the next flight the signal strength didn't seem to be what it used to be quite, but not bad. Let's see what else happened on that first flight that you're going to see. Well, I'll wait and you'll see it, so I'm not going to tell you any more about it. So this is the second flight of the day. We're going in the opposite direction of the first flight just to make things fair. Thelma Lou's up about 350 feet, and she's headed due south. She's flying a little bit into the wind now. There are 5 to 10 mile an hour winds at altitude, maybe a little more than that at altitude UAV gives me. But not bad at all, pretty calm. You can see that little lake there, hardly a ripple in it. So pretty good flying weather, partly cloudy skies. It had rained last night, so there's a lot of moisture in the air, and you can tell the haze that's in the air. And there's the famous DJI tilt, gimbal tilt, tilting to the right. One of these days I'm going to take the time to fix that, although it should not be that way to begin with. But it's a DJI product, and I don't expect any less or any more from them. So don't get me wrong, I love DJI. I've got DJI, I've got some other brands too, but DJI is by far my favorite brand, although I am not a fanboy by any stretch of the imagination. Anyway, we're headed due south now. Going to check out signal strength, and not going to fly that far out today. I do notice something that, that most people have noticed with the Mini 3 Pro and the RC controller is it doesn't like being around any trees or leaves at all. I mean, even a little bit tends to wreak havoc with the signal. So my best advice is, if you want the furthest distance and the best signal, find you a place where there's not a tree growing and you're flying downhill all the way. I've looked at a lot of people on YouTube that are getting just outrageous amounts of distance with the Mini 3 Pro, but I am not one of those. I would say my distance and signal strength is fair. She does not have the signal strength that my Mini 2 does. She's close, but she's not there, and that's with the regular, what is that, R1N1 controller on the Mini 2. Now, I've got an R1N1 controller for the Mini 3 too, but I have not paired it up yet. I've just been flying with the RC controller here. You kind of get spoiled by this controller. You got screen record in it. You don't have to fool with that on your phone. It's right there. It's very light to hold. A couple things I do not like about it. It's fairly bright. I haven't had too much problem seeing it if I can find a little bit of shade. The other thing is my fingers tend to hit the buttons on the back sometimes. And funny things happen when I do that. So other than that, I like the controller. The R1N1, I believe, is the way to say it. The sides of the controller, the controller is much heavier, excuse me, and the sides of the controller are rounded and bigger and beefier, and my hands fits my hands perfectly. But with this controller, my hands just tend to extend over the side, and I end up hitting those buttons from time to time on the back of the controller. So, gots to be careful doing that. So anyway, she's flying pretty good. The horizon's pretty level now, but that's because there's, 5-mile-an-hour winds at the surface, maybe a little bit more, not much though, because you can see how still the water is. At altitude, I always check the winds at the altitude I'm going to be flying at, and they were about 10 miles an hour, I believe, maybe a little bit faster. I try to keep an eye on that. Don't want to get carried away with the wind, but the Mini 3 handles the wind very well. The only complaint I have about it is the same as the Mini 2. There's the angle tilt a little bit on the horizon. Is when you're flying cockeyed to the wind. Now she hit return to home there. So and if you're flying a little crossways to the wind, on both the Mini 3 and the Mini 2, it tends to tilt that gimbal quite a bit. Especially the Mini 2 is worse than the Mini 3. But boy, you can notice it. So, and I just, I don't know any way to correct it other than getting in there and doing it yourself all the time. Which really shouldn't have to do, but I guess because of the size of these drones, it's just inevitable. So anyway, we're on the way back now. She flipped into RTH there, so we'll go on RTH for a little while, and then I'm going to take over the sticks again, and had plenty of battery. I think I have the Fly More Plus battery in on this, so had plenty of battery. So as we start getting the drone a little bit closer, I'll go ahead and take over, and we'll depart from the way it is showing. Also, on this latest firmware, my compass has been acting up every once in a while. It hasn't been true all the time, so kind of strange. Not sure what's going on there. Sometimes it shows I'm off to the side, and other times it shows I'm just right where I'm supposed to be. So, to me, 1.6.8, I think my compass was very good in that previous version. And this is 1.6.9, yeah, 9. So it's a little more screwball in this version here. But I'm sure DJI will have another update out for this at no time at all. I mean, that's what DJI does the best, is they release firmware updates like clockwork. Okay, I have taken over control, and we're gonna go to the west a little bit here and veer a little bit off the return to home course and see what's over in this neck of the woods. Lots of natural gas and oil wells on this property. They're all over the place. I guess that's how you can build big houses like that, $1-million homes. Have that natural gas on your land or oil, whatever it is, and pump it out. You can afford to do stuff like that. So anyway, we're going to fly due west for a while. I said I'm amazed at the capacity of these Fly More batteries. I am probably getting about 32 to 34 minutes. Sometimes you squeeze out 35 minutes out of the Fly More, where I'm getting in the mid-20s with the regular battery. So I'm well pleased in it. I think it was a pretty good investment. Now, I'm not sure. They're planting stuff down there. I see some deals, but those look like horse paddocks. So I'm thinking this is a horse farm that I have flown over before. So we'll take another peek at it here. Yeah, there's a horse walking right there. Guy leading a horse right there. So I guess I was right about that. And there's a cell tower and another big corral. Come down this way and looks like more horse corrals and pasture and stuff. So over this way, I think we're headed west. I think we're gonna hang a Roscoe here and come down the hill. Pretty steep hill up here, so we'll try to stay over here to the side of the road. Just kind of curious what all this is. Nice little lake there. All these little lakes make me want to go fishing. I'll tell you what, I haven't wet a rod or a line, excuse me, this year. I don't want to wet a rod, but I haven't wet a line this year yet. And it's kind of disgusting if you ask me, because I used to love to fish. Anyway, lots of woods, lots of open pastures. The fields have all been hayed, it looks like, so back in the woods, boy. I love to have a place back in the woods. As you can see, I want to see everything, so I'm working this gimbal over. That's a trap range. You see where they shoot, trap, and skeet. I'm sure that's what that is right there. Huh. Very interesting. And I have heard the shooting taking place when I've been out at the park before, so that's got to be what that is there. And we're going to go down the hill a little bit more. I'd like to see what's in here. I'm so curious about the woods and trails and man-made trails and animal trails, deer trails. See, they've hayed that field also. Zoom in on that. We'll follow along the edge of this field here and start bringing her back. I see a road down there in the trees somewhere. There it is. Follow along the edge of that road. We can't get lost, hopefully. Anyway, the Mini 3 flew real good with this new firmware update. I did have a few signal problems, and in the previous video, which you'll be able to see, seems like when it goes into return to home, she just doesn't know what to do for a while. I think she's coming back, but the video just freezes, and for anywhere from 30 seconds to a minute sometimes, the video will be stuck there and the beep will be going on, and luckily she is coming back because I can watch it on the regular video, but on the screen feed and the screen recording, it shows that it just locks up. So not sure what that is. Got something to do when it goes into RTH though. It's like she doesn't know what to do. I'm hoping I can fix that. I'm not sure if it's this firmware update that caused that, but it seems like I had a little glitch in 1.6.8 also. But anyway, we're taking a look at this nice little place up on the hill here. And we're going to head back. Kind of make it a long circle there, but it's flying real good. We're dropping some altitude now. Headed north-northeast now. Like I said, the temperature on this flight was in the low to mid 80s in the morning, and it was, I'd say, probably 10 o'clock in the morning, somewhere in there. And the temperature was already in that low 80s. So very warm day out. The wind hadn't picked up yet, but later on in the day it started blowing 15 to 20 miles an hour. So I do most of my flying either early in the morning or right at dusk, and the winds seem to settle down at those two periods, and then you get your really best conditions for flying. I'm gonna have to start using some ND filters pretty soon. I think I've got the DJI set that you get with the Mini 3, which isn't much of a set. They give you 3 filters, and that really isn't enough. But it's what I had purchased, and the other filters from my other ones don't fit on this. So I'm not a big ND filter person. You know, a lot of people, well, I got to have that motion blur and all that. I'm not Cecil B. DeMille or anybody like that. So I like to see it good contrast, good sharpness. Don't need a whole lot of motion blur unless I'm trying to maybe film some water, moving water or something like that. And, you know, then you can do that in post-production. You know, you can slow it down after you've shot in like 60 frames a second, you know, whatever. So I don't do a lot of ND filters. I do on my professional cameras that I shoot with, my 35 and larger frame cameras, but on the drones I don't use them a lot, even though I have some. So now we're taking a peek back, and I'm saying, well, let's come on in here and see where we can get close to it. You know, on this Mini 3 versus the Mini 2, it's got the obstacle avoidance on it. Sometimes I forget to turn it off, and depends on where I take off at. Sometimes it's a little dicey getting it back to her. This was launched from a picnic table off underneath, between 2 sets of trees there, you'll see, and almost underneath the tree. So I'm a little bit more careful. There comes the guy that rides the motorcycle. You can see it parked over there, that seems to be up there when I'm flying all the time. We carried on a pretty good conversation about playing the guitar, since we both play guitar. And had that going on while I was attempting to make a halfway decent flight. So we're going to bring her back in, and he's got the questions going now. So we'll see if we can get her in there and get her back over underneath that tree there, where she belongs. That Mini 2 boy, she just slides right in there without any obstacle avoidance doing anything, but this thing will let you know for sure. A lot of times I'll fly with it off because I really don't need it on unless I'm doing some close-in work, you know, around trees, buildings, things like that. But most of the time out in the open, nah, don't need it at all. So, but we managed to get her underneath this big tree and getting to land here. We hope you guys enjoyed it, and want you to fly safe out there, and we'll get a chance. We'll talk to you again soon. Take care.